On the 1st of June 2023, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was released to overwhelming levels of praise. The animation was out of this world, the story was a high-stake middle piece of a 3-piece puzzle, and the queer subtext was pretty great too. Crap crunching at animators though. Oh, I'm sorry. Queer subtext? What I actually meant was the most cis-heteronormative scenes in the entire film, involving 2 teenagers revealing their secret identity to their respective parental figure, and this action having major implications for said characters. Yeah. Not queer coded in any way whatsoever. Cis people say so, and interpretation is dead. Is what I would have said loosely about a similar piece of queer subtext a few years ago, yet here I am with a dress, a new name, a better understanding of my sexuality, and a better understanding of how art can be perceived from more perspectives than the artist originally intended. The reason I bring this up is because of freaks on the online right, who will remain nameless as I feel you should pay no mind to them. They try to rather maliciously argue that Spider-Verse's Gwen Stacy isn't trans, and ignored any implication of a trans allegory. This wasn't caused by a member of the writing staff explicitly saying so. This was due to a fair few people on social media interpreting Gwen as a trans woman and her story arc as a trans allegory. I personally found Gwen's story arc to be one of the most impactful aspects of the film. I came out as trans to my friends back in May, but not publicly until I released my coming out video, which I will have a link to in the description and at the end of this video. Seeing a heartbreaking secret identity reveal from a queer perspective was far more impactful than viewing it from its original context. I felt like Gwen in that situation. I thought coming out to certain people in my life would destroy it. It was only at the point where I couldn't take another day of staying in the closet that I took off my mask and revealed Alice to the world. Isn't that crazy though? How your interpretation of a work of art can improve it in your own mind. And the best part is, no one can tell you, not even me, unless you genuinely did miss the point, that your interpretation is wrong. Gwen might be trans, Gwen might not be trans, but film supports both interpretations. And at the end of the day, whether Gwen is trans or not, that isn't the point of this discussion. Gwen being trans is an interpretation. However, the interpretation of seeing Gwen's story arc as a queer allegory supported by the film itself. I won't go into detail because you can either watch the movie with this in mind or watch Jessie Gender's excellent video on how Hollywood corrupts trans stories, which covers Spider-Verse and other great works with queer subtext. The reason I brought this tangent up is because it heavily relates to today's topic. So hello there, superwildejellyfish here, and today I'll be looking into queer coding in music. So to start, what is queer coding? Let's break down the definition. Queer used to be an offensive derogatory term levied towards gay people, often used by heterosexuals. Because obviously. It used to be defined as being off and strange. However, by the late 80s, the word queer was reclaimed by the LGBT+ community as a positive term, to push against its negative connotation. Queer since then is defined as an umbrella term, not just relating to homosexuality, but any sexual orientation that isn't heterosexual. Coding, used here as a verb, is to express the meaning of a statement in an indirect way. To put in simpler terms, it's to imply something without directly saying it. Putting 2 and 2 together, queer coding, for our purposes, is analysing a text and finding underlying queer themes. And the reason I wanted to make a video on this is because a lot more music than you might realise has queer coding. And we'll be looking at 2 blunt examples of this and 4 interpretations that I would like to share with you. I felt the best examples to use as blunt ones would be from queer artists, and who better to start off with than legendary hyperpop producer SOPHIE. SOPHIE was an icon not just in the queer community but also in the music scene. Her production had a very distinct otherworldly sound to it, and believe me, distinct is not strong enough of a word to detail SOPHIE's production. Take a look at Vroom Vroom by Charlie XCX and Yeah Right by Vince Staples. Both songs were in completely different ballparks in genre, Vroom Vroom being hyperpop and Yeah Right being experimental hip-hop. But if you listen to them closely, you probably notice that the production has a distinct sound to it, right? That's the magic of SOPHIE's music. Every song she produced offered a different experience, yet it was very noticeably her. I will just mention, in case you don't know, the reason I'm bringing SOPHIE up in the past tense is because she tragically passed away in early 2021. I truly hope that shining a spotlight on her music and keeping the discussion of her influence alive keeps her alive in the grand scheme of things. We might not get another SOPHIE, so let's celebrate what she brought to the music landscape. I could have picked multiple tracks from SOPHIE's LP, Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides, whether it be It's Okay to Cry's breakdown of societal attitudes towards expressing sensitive emotion and opening up one's true self to the world, Pony Boy's celebration of sexuality, both in queerness and in kink, face shopping's personal tie to hormone replacement therapy, I could honestly list the whole album. But let's continue to focus on Infatuation. Infatuation, on a surface level, is about obsession and the emotional toll it can have on the obsessed. You're deadly, you're heavenly. Ooh, I said it. I waited. It's a feeling that a lot of us have experienced. I can say that I have been through this multiple times in my life. The chorus asks, who are you deep down? Who are you out there? I want to know. A desire for love is being expressed by the narrator. She wants to know about this person she obsesses over. There's also an interesting difference between the standard definition of love and the concept of infatuation. In love, you learn that the perfect image you built up of said person isn't as accurate. There are imperfections, yet it doesn't matter. That's what love is. Loving someone despite the imperfections. Infatuation is finding someone perfect. It's realistically very, very unlikely you'll ever meet someone who in your eyes is perfect in every way. But let's be honest, when you have a crush on someone, you tend to be infatuated. Sometimes those flaws are like seeing red flags through rose-tinted glasses. They just look like flags. That's the meaning of the song on a surface level. However, if we view it from a queer lens, the song takes on an entirely new meaning, which interestingly leaves both perspectives with nuance. The queer interpretation of Infatuation views the narration of the song through an entirely different lens. The perspective of the crush is from a single point of view. She is the only one expressing these feelings. The queer interpretation exposes two points of view, and my main reasoning for this is the difference in vocal delivery and the meaning attached. The verses are digitally altered to sound unintelligible and high-pitched, while the chorus is spoken clearly with an emphasis put on I wanna know. My interpretation of what this song is about is longing for Sophie to become her true self being a transgender woman. The verses showcase that longing and a rather doubtful side to Sophie, describing her true self as deadly and heavenly. It's common for trans people still in the closet, aka eggs, to be both intrigued yet fearful of who this person inside you truly is. Let it be known, this person isn't different to who you are in the present moment as an egg. You don't just turn female, male, non-binary, etc. and change your personality like that. If you're a trans viewer watching this, you already know this already. I'm bringing this up because some cis people I know have asked me how different I may end up being changing into a woman when really I'm still the same person. I just feel a lot more comfortable now than when I used to present as a cisgender male. And believe me, I used to view Alice as deadly and heavenly, and despite being out, I'm still waiting to fully realise my true self. I can bet a few years from now I'll look back on this video and both see and hear someone who looks and sounds completely different to who I'll be then. I'm infatuated by who she'll be, who she is deep down. I want to know. That not just being my personal view in this moment in time, but also the secondary viewpoint of the narrator. The verses are making statements. The chorus is asking questions. And unlike the surface level meaning, the infatuation found here is incredibly positive. It's viewing the perfect version of yourself as someone you should strive to be. Someone who, if you were them, would make you feel much happier and more comfortable. I implore you, dear viewer, be infatuated by your true self. Embrace your identity and your sexuality because it feels wonderful being your true self. It will take some time, but somewhere down the line, we won't be alone. That's a lyric from one of my favourite albums of all time, Twin Fantasy, which is also one of the gayest albums of all time. I honestly want to talk about it one day. It's a really special album to me, but anyway, my point is, that sentiment still rings true, even today. The time for you to find yourself and your community, it will come. And speaking of time, Time by Arca is the second track on Kick 1, and just like Pink Floyd's song of the same name, the meaning behind it is both blunt and touching. Arca's Time is an electro-pop ballad that's by far the most blunt song covered in this video when relating to queer themes. There's no traditional song structure here. The entire song consists of two verses continuously repeating the main theme of the song, one being the act of coming out of the closet and the other being the satisfaction of finally feeling free to enjoy yourself. Arca supports this with lyrics like, I know you want it, time, to let it out. It's time. And it's time to let it out and show the world. Arca calmly speaks to the listener, serenading their ears with blissful production as she ushers them to let go of all fear and reservation and open themselves up to the world. There are many reasons that scare queer people away from coming out. Rejection from friends, family, and negative social media attention, for example. Despite there being more open and safe spaces for queer people than there were back in the day, it can still feel unsafe being queer sometimes. I know that, many of my queer friends know that, Arca knows that. Take this time tonight for yourself. Take this time tonight for yourself to unwind. It's time. A famous quote from June is, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. Don't let fear drive your life if it's going to stop you from living it. Give yourself some time alone. Take that time and relax. Focus on yourself. I distinctly remember the night before I came out as trans to my family. I talked to many friends about how I didn't want to pretend that I was a man anymore, pretending I'm someone I'm not. I was panicking on my close friend's bed, and I had to leave early because I was starting to feel emotionally sick about coming home and having to keep my true self inside. And that night, when I finally did tell them who I was, I felt free. I felt like I could be myself no matter where I am. When I introduce myself to anybody now, it's as Alice. I quite recently booked an appointment at the hairdresser's and asked if I could be referred to as Alice. When I go out to meet friends, I don't wear jeans anymore. I wear skirts and stripy tights and dresses. I wear the clothes that make me feel the most comfortable, and I go by the name and pronouns that sit best with me. I faced my fear, and I came out feeling better because of it. I knew I wanted it, I let it out, and I showed the world. Time is a beautiful, powerful song where Arca wants to empower queer people to be themselves, and be yourself you should.
Do you think God knows? You've been sneaking out of heaven like one, his eyes closed.
Now that we've covered two blunt examples, let's look at a few interpretable ones. These are all songs that have their meanings portrayed through cisgender artists conveying themes of hope, anxiety, shameful judgment, and empowerment. We're discussing these songs with the same queer lens as we already have been, and potentially discovering whole new meanings in the songs that we love. You might not believe it, but I'm covering a song that I've already covered on the channel. The Hype is a song that I've had 3 separate interpretations of over the last 5 years, each new one making a lot more sense than the previous. My first interpretation was so boring. It took the meaning of I don't believe the hype as literally as it could be taken, being a literal tie to the long-awaited release of Trench, and the Pantaloon reference is nothing more as a reference. My second interpretation came about in 2021. I decided to talk about Trench in its entirety for a video, and this is what I had to say about the hype then.
Like Trench, the hype exceeds itself as a groovy, exciting banger, encouraging the listener to maintain hope through difficult times.
When it comes to the song at a surface level, I'd say this interpretation is still pretty accurate. But to quote Mama Odie from The Princess and the Frog, gotta dig a little deeper. Sometimes I feel cold, even paralyzed. My interior world needs to sanitize. I've got to step through, or I'll dissipate. Tyler describes an uncomfortable feeling of frostiness, being so extreme it feels as if it causes paralysis. The album this song is featured on, Trench, is a concept album primarily about the fictional location known as Dima. In the album, Dima is a prison guarded by 9 bishops, representing various insecurities posed by the human mind. Dima is seen by many fans as a metaphor for mental illness, building the idea that escaping Dima is akin to battling your own inner demons. It's a tough process mentally, but ultimately leads to living a much happier life. When you hit a fork on your journey of self-expression, especially one that hits you emotionally, it can feel a lot worse than simply being stuck. You feel cold, uncomfortable, like you don't even belong in your own body. You feel as if you are not able to take that next step required. There's a looming threat of the erasure of oneself, feeling as if society itself doesn't want you and only wants what it wants of you. However, the chorus provides hope to the listener. Nice to know my kind will be on my side. I don't believe the hype. And you know that you're a terrible sight, but you'll be just fine. Just don't believe the hype. Trust me, love, if you're going through a roadblock in your journey of self-expression, you are not alone. At the time of writing, I am a single pansexual trans gal who hasn't got enough levels of estrogen in her bloodstream, and no one to spoon with to the sweet sounds of Tom York's voice. Does that make me sad? Yeah, particularly the former. But despite my physical appearance and my voice, I have my clothes, I have a name chosen by myself. And most importantly, regarding this point, I have community. I have various friends spanning across the rainbow who unconditionally support the way I express myself. There are people, just like you and I, all around the world. They're on your side, despite how you may see yourself. You'll be just fine. Don't believe what a bunch of insecure, whiny twats say about you. Trust in the love that your kind, your community will offer. But you don't get thick skin without getting burned. Believe me, you are going to hear some shit directed right at you for being queer. And believe me, a lot of it's going to be unwarranted. You simply existing has pissed off a large number of awful bigoted nutjobs that just want you dead. It's a grim reality that we live in, but it's not one that's going to change overnight. Many bigots hide behind religion, science, nature, upbringing. The list goes on and on. The thing to remember is You are going to have to face this, whether you like it or not. It's unfortunate, but realistically, it's impossible not to. But your skin will grow thicker. Hate can only have as much power as your brain lets it have. You know what's right, and you know that they're wrong. It can still hurt even after a long time of adjustment. Being called slurs and being treated differently just for who you are, it's horrible. But lead singer of Idol's Joe Talbot famously sung on I'm Scum, "This snowflake's an avalanche." You may get called soft, but you're tougher than you look. Don't let them get to you. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. At the time of writing, I relate to this a little too much. I am going through my mid-20s where do I go from here crisis at 20. So a little earlier than I was expecting. The future is uncertain. I have no bloody clue what awaits. My only hope is that I look and sound a lot different and I have a better idea of who I want to be as a person. I'm hoping the words I follow will guide me towards a clearer path. There's a lot of uncertainty being queer in 2023. It's hard to tell if the next law being passed is going to give you more rights or take away the few you had. It's kind of scary, honestly, but hope is our best friend in a time like this. Just gotta hold on. I was debating whether or not to cover this song originally, but after reading the first line, I knew I had to cover it. Wolf Alice's Space and Time has an honestly scary amount of queer subtext, so let's have a look at the first line. I hope my body gets better. Do I mean my body or my mind? This line. This line. You know when you hear that Radiohead lyric at a specific time and it just hits you in a way that you never could have possibly imagined? One example that hits me especially is the pre-chorus on Letdown. One day, I'm gonna grow wings. A chemical reaction. Hysterical and useless. The connection I have with that line is pretty similar to how I feel about this one. One concept I draw to Space and Time's opening line and to the whole song in general is the concept of gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is the concept of feeling gender-specific discomfort of your own self. This can be caused by your body, both private and non-private parts, your voice, the way you dress, the way someone addresses you. Even trans people who have medically transitioned or found comfort in the way that they are now can still feel this dysphoria. I remember feeling dysphoria for my hands, feeling as if they look too manly and wrong. I always thought I didn't look that conventionally attractive because I wasn't some Ryan Gosling type. Yet nowadays, I detest how I look even more because I feel like my face is a completed puzzle with various pieces belonging to another puzzle set. Suffice to say, dysphoria can be a bitch, but it's not just the body. Sometimes my mind is put in question. Am I saying things in a way that a woman would? Do I present feminine enough? Do I need to improve the way that I shave? My body is something that I feel I want to change dramatically. I've had a lot of time to think about it and I'm very sure. But is my mind just as important to treat better? I hate the word forever, hate the word change. I just need time. Give me time, space and time. I hate the notion that when coming out as trans, some people view you like you're going to change into a completely different person. As addressed earlier in the video, you don't just turn female, male, non-binary, etc. and just change like that. Becoming trans is more complex than that. You're the same person, but you just feel more comfortable about yourself, or at least as comfortable as you can be. I and many other trans people in the UK hate how the NHS waiting times feel like forever, many times leading to disastrous consequences in return. A lot of people don't process that it's a waiting time to start transitioning. When you are finally allowed by your publicly funded healthcare system to start your hormone replacement therapy, start is the key word. You still have to wait for results you should have gotten years ago. The whole process of transitioning takes time, and there are times where you'll need space from certain people and certain places due to the discomfort that they may inflict upon you. It's important to remember that when you need your space and time, to try your best to get it, for it will help in the long run. Take me out to the future, just so I can look back into the past. I feel many of us want to look into the future, just to see how much better we're doing. Whenever feeling sad about my current state of affairs, I feel the future could be a comforting prospect. And to look back and see where I am right now, it's interesting to think about. Oh god, I was strange now, weren't I? I hope when I look back, I can laugh. It feels strange being where I'm at right now, experimenting with clothes, being referred to as she, her, a woman, Alice. Although I can say that over time, I've been getting more and more used to living this true version of myself. There's a part of me that feels like in the future, I'll look back and find some innocent humor in the way I am right now. Things don't feel as funny in the present, but I'm sure it might in the future. I feel I'm losing control of my body. I don't want to come undone. I am set to to self-destruct. After going through puberty, realizing you're trans is both an interesting discovery and a poorly timed one. I wish I could have taken puberty blockers, as they would have helped me a lot in the present, but unfortunately my brain came to this realization far too late, so now I feel like multiple factors are kicking my ass. My voice doesn't sound right, my body hair keeps growing, and I know for a fact that fixing these parts of myself is going to cost me a lot of money and time. For a cis person, going through puberty feels like you're losing control, but over time you get used to the changes. As a trans person, those changes fuck you up. You don't want to feel set back by your circumstances because of the emotional turmoil that can result from them. It can feel at points because of all of what you go through that you're set to self-destruct. Like life kicked you in the bollocks and spat in your face. It's a tough position to be in, but with enough space and time, you'll be at a point where you won't have to go through this anymore. This song is a pretty long one from a lyrical perspective, so I'll be approaching it a bit differently from the others. I distinctly remember the first time I heard Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever. It was a late night quite recently, I was sitting on a beach, and after a few songs I started walking along the sand, engaged by the beauty and melancholy. While you have songs like Oxytocin and Lost Cause showcasing Billie's confident, charming attitude, songs like Getting Older and My Future are a lot more contemplative. I felt my walking speed slow, and my attention focused more sharply when Not My Responsibility started playing. The song functions as a smooth interlude into Overheated, both in terms of its sound and themes. However, both songs approach the topic of judgment in different ways. Overheated is Billie turning her frustrations with the way the media objectifies her into song, while Not My Responsibility is Billie bluntly airing out her insecurities to the world in spoken word. First time I heard Not My Responsibility, I cried. Not just because of how cruel many people treated Billie around her body image, but also because of the connections I made with the lyricism. Do you know me? Really know me? Dear viewer, I know nothing about you. The dream you work towards in life, the reason you get out of bed in the morning, the music you like, the types of people you want to or a potential distaste in even wanting to. Whether you like me or not, based on the way I talk, the way I present myself, you only know as much about me as I choose to present to you. You know I'm pansexual and you know that I'm trans. That doesn't mean you know me. But despite saying that, some people will jump to conclusions and act like they know exactly who I am. The so-called woke, delusional, lefty snowflake of a twat. I've heard that phrase and multiple iterations of that phrase too many times to count. Don't act like you know me better than I know myself, especially when you're fucking wrong. Some people hate what I wear, some people praise it, some people use it to shame others. It's a vocal minority at this time, but I have had multiple people criticize the way I dress. And I don't mean fair criticism like, the sleeves are a little bit too long, or they don't look that compatible with your current wardrobe. I mean the type that's going out of its way to make you feel like shit. Are you seriously going out like that? It's a bit too much. I wouldn't wear that. One of the best early feelings after publicly coming out is how much you can start shaping your lifestyle from now on. Using clothing as an example, you're no longer restricted by stereotypical gender-neutral / gender-specific clothing that society views as normal, because you're now free to dress however you like. The best way I can describe finding a fashion style is finding your art style. It takes a lot of experimentation and time to pin down the style that suits you, and one of the best parts is when you do find that style, you don't have to stick to it at all. You can experiment even further and keep experimenting until your heart stops. What's important to remember is to enjoy what you can in the moment. I love the clothes that I have on right now. I'm specifically wearing an outfit that I put together in front of you because they feel comfortable and they make me happy. And yeah, some people will exploit my presentation as a weapon, saying I look nothing more than a foolish man in a dress, a disgrace to the idea of what it means to be a woman. And that brings me to the line that broke me first listen. The body I was born with, is it not what you wanted? If I wear what is comfortable, I am not a woman. It feels like it never gets easier each time someone goes out of their way to diminish the existence of queer people. It feels like we have to prove ourselves for some reason, to pass enough. Even when close friends will make an effort the second you come out, those who tell you to prove yourself will never be satisfied, because to them, you will never be who you say you are. The body you're born with, the name on your driving license, the name on your birth certificate, the people you've gone out with, if they don't align what they perceive as stereotypically correct, then you aren't who you say you are. Who decides what that makes me? What that means? Is my value based only on your perception? Or is your opinion of me not my responsibility? And now we reach the final song of this video, that being the one that inspired the idea in the first place. We're in This Together is the 5th song on the 9 Inch Nails double album, The Fragile. The Fragile is an incredibly dark and heavy listen, much like its predecessor, The Downward Spiral. But in the darkness, there can be a faint light of hope, and that hope lies in the song we'll be talking about. I've become impossible, holding on to when everything seemed to matter more. Discovering your queerness can feel like it dramatically affects the way that you see both the world and yourself. Some of the things you felt were important to you fade away for newer, more intimidating wants and desires. Your existence and identity can feel impossible, as you feel as if you are not able to express yourself properly. Not only that, but you may also find that your own body feels as if it betrayed you in some way. It could be a liking for the same sex, a dislike of sex, or even feeling that your own parts are wrong. When you're in a position where you can't make the necessary changes to your lifestyle, that feeling of impossibility begins to grab you at your throat. It can begin to strangle you and leave you feeling hopeless, like you can't live as your true self. The two of us, all used and beaten up. When you're in the closet, you can sometimes feel like your closeted self is another human being entirely. When you're on your own or with people you can speak freely around, that part of you flourishes. You feel as if the person you pretend to be doesn't even exist. But you'll find that moment when you have to go back to your closeted self and you feel that sense of weariness and hurt creep back onto you, watching fate as it flows down the path we have chose. In life, we may choose what path we take, but the way our lives play out isn't dictated by said path or fate. Our journey instead tends to be interconnected by path and fate. Queerness isn't a choice. You don't wake up one day and choose to be queer. It's something that naturally occurs. You don't decide to be gay, trans, ace, etc. But you do decide how you shape your life around said queerness. Whether it's closeting it, fully expressing it, or staying neutral about it. You have control of what choices you make around your queerness, but you won't have control of how society reacts back. Society works like fate. It's out of your control, making it uncertain how kindly it will act back. You and me, we're in this together now. None of them can stop us now. We will make it through somehow. You and me, if the world should break in two, until the very end of me, until the very end of you. All of the shit that you have to trudge through just for being who you are, it makes you unstoppable. When your true self guides your closeted self, it's not an act of erasure. It's the real you guiding the mask you wear into becoming one. That being an open expression of who you are. The line, "None of them can stop us now," is a callback to a repeated line off of The Downward Spiral, that line being "Nothing can stop me now." On Spiral, this line was used to show the protagonist's soul falling further and further into the darkness, letting go of any goodwill and becoming a fucking monster. The line becomes more and more pessimistic as the sound and themes of the project followed suit, leading to a very disturbing conclusion. The context of We're in This Together's line is a lot more optimistic, as it takes the motif from Spiral and flips it on its head. No matter who or what tries to tear you down, you will make it through. The world can break in two, yet even that won't be enough. Death is the one and only thing that can stop you, so until then, like I said, you're unstoppable. Well, they've got to kill what we found. Well, they've got to hate what they fear. Well, they've got to make it go away. Well, they've got to make it disappear. This is by far the bluntest queer subtext in this video. It perfectly describes the state that queer culture is in right now, as these lyrics from 1999 are terrifyingly relevant to this day. Bigots want to kill us. They hate us because they fear what they don't understand. They want us to simply go away and just disappear. I'm paraphrasing the lyrics because it's true. It's 2023. It's been 54 years since the Stonewall riots, and somehow bigots are still excused for the most bullshit reasons. In October of this year, our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak acted like a child in front of a gallery of other children, acting as if trans people asking for respect of simply being referred to by the correct pronouns is a form of bullying. And if you think I'm cherry picking, this is a quote from said conference. We shouldn't get bullied into believing people can be any sex that they want to be. Fuck you. We're not going anywhere. Queer people are staying right here, and if that makes you uncomfortable, good. You can go yourselves. You've made us feel uncomfortable for decades. You've bullied us for decades, and you've only gotten worse with time. Don't start acting oppressed when all you do is oppress. because I can assure you, history will tarnish your name and all those who supported you. When all our hope is gone, we have to hold on. All that we were is gone, but we can hold on. This bridge is incredibly important as it highlights that even when all hope is lost, you cannot give up. The strength that you've carried through so much of your life already is proof that you can make it through anything, no matter how hopeless. Don't let anybody take your sense of self away from you. Power on through and show them that you can't be stopped. You and me, even after everything, you're the queen and I'm the king. Nothing else means anything. Reading this last line from a trans perspective is really interesting. I feel there's still a part of me who thinks I'm a man. I hear my voice, I see my reflections, and I feel that part of me tried to tear me down, much like transphobes. The only difference I feel is that my dysphoria tells me what's wrong, but pushes me to find a way to fix that. I want a lot changed about myself physically. I thought long and hard about this, and I'm very sure. I know that I want my voice changed, so I really need to get some vocal practice in. I want to put a band together with a close friend, and I've already decided that when my voice is feminine enough, I want to re-record all my lines and put it out again with my preferred voice while still keeping the originals up. There's a lot that I personally feel that I need to do. My dysphoria is the king and my identity is the queen. And I'm sure that one day will come when I look in the mirror and hear how my voice sounds as I say something and nothing will matter anymore. And believe me, if you are watching with that same kind of dysphoria, I am certain that day will come for you too. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you find joy in my work, and if you do, feel free to like and subscribe. I would love to hear any other songs that you may find queer interpretations from, so please leave them in the comments below. I would also like to offer a big thanks to Noelcat, Aiden is Shoegazing, Kirsten Sapine, and Lexi for script feedback, and I would also like to thank Starstruck Socks for the thumbnail art and Who Pusher for the thumbnail design. This has been Super Wild Jellyfish, and may you strive to be your wild self.